So we are in the studio with Nenyi George Andah. He's a member of parliament for Ewutu Senya West, but also a deputy communications minister. And we're grateful that you found time to be with us this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother. Good morning to your viewers, and good morning to those watching us from Ewutu Senya West.
All right. But let's get straight away to some great discussions. And yesterday, well, the highlight of activities in parliament was ultimately the approval of the reports of the appointment committee on the vetting of the special prosecutor nominee, Martin Amido. And of course, we had some great responses as well as some concerns being raised by particularly Dr. Dominic Ayini, who already has a suit in court, etc. But what will be your highlights from the time he was nominated and now we've had the approval by Parliament?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was the demonstration by His Excellency the President, the demonstration of his fight against corruption, the fact that you could tell by this particular appointment that His Excellency the President is not only a visionary leader, but he's a strategic leader. Before then, there had been noise that he was going to appoint some other people within who had worked in his chamber, people that were strongly MPP. It was going to be witch hunting. And clearly, by the decision that he took, he showed that he was way ahead of those people that were trying to dilute the whole importance of the office of the special prosecutor. And he silenced quite a lot of people. It also, for me, was a clear demonstration that, listen, I am appointing this person. This person is known as the citizens' vigilante. If you do wrong, I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to protect you. Okay, you are out there, and this should be a caution that this man, even his own party people, he will go after them. He will speak his mind, and so don't even dare to try and misbehave. I remember when the announcement was first made, so I was talking to a friend of mine. They said, "Hey, citizen vigilante, if he's going after you and somebody from the top calls, who called the radio station and say this person has come in, I should drop this case." So this is the kind of person that His Excellency the President nominated or considered following the nomination of the attorney. Demonstration went through the process, parliamentary vetting, very insightful, very engaging process of vetting. He demonstrated himself, what he stands for, what he set out to do, and it was on. Well, I mean, everybody has their rights to go to court, and I think that we'll wait for the outcome of the Supreme Court case, and then we'll look at what next. But yes, he was cleared by Parliament. He was the vetting committee voted by consensus. Initially, it was a majority, but later it was changed to a consensus. Initially, it was an overwhelming majority, but it was changed to a consensus. I think Suini came on board, so that changed the whole narrative. There was some talk that there's a case before the Supreme Court, so that should stop Parliament from doing what we have to do, from conducting the business of the House. And I believe that by our standing orders, the process is set out clearly. The rules are set out clearly. It is when, in the opinion of the Speaker, he believes that a case or an issue before Parliament could impact on the Supreme Court, then in his opinion, he could take a decision. And there have been precedents that have been set in this light. So it's not as if the Speaker was being unfair. And Roland, you will recall that even with the election petition, when the case was before the Supreme Court, the government of the NDC was nominating ministers and deputy ministers. Parliament was vetting ministers and deputy ministers. Ministers and deputy ministers were being sworn into office, even when the case was before the Supreme Court. So, I mean, where's this thing as if we don't know what we should be doing as parliamentarians? And that is the beauty of democracy. If in the event that the verdict of the Supreme Court goes in a way that means that the decision of Parliament becomes moot, then that will cross the bridge when we get there. But so far, so good. I believe that what next is that we need to resource the Office of the Special Prosecutor. He needs to get his team in place, and then he needs to go ahead and start the prosecutions.
Well, so then there will be a greater conversation around, well, after the Supreme Court ruling, what it will be, and then also how we need to set up this office, whether it's the right kind of journey even to embark on, whether there could be some repercussions politically even for the president, but how an example, or what sort of example are we setting as a country on the continent? But let's get you to Parliament, get you the highlight, speak to...
But just before I begin, I think one of the highlights that I failed to mention was the statement that His Excellency, the former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, the founder of the NDC, made when he met with the Japanese ambassador. And he said that by that single appointment, His Excellency, the President, has demonstrated clearly his fight against corruption. So when other people from the NDC are sort of poo-pooing His Excellency the President's commitment to fight against corruption, it's quite ironical. I mean, the founder of the opposition himself has said that there's a clear demonstration that His Excellency is fighting corruption.
That you're making political mileage out of this.
No, it's a fact.
It's factual. Yeah, it's factual too. But let's get to Parliament, get the highlights, and then we'll come back. We'll discuss the issues in proper context.
Parliament's Appointment Committee today presented its report to the House recommending the approval of Martin Amidu as Special Prosecutor. This recommendation was by consensus, but the committee's report had indicated that one MP, Al-Hassan Suhini, had voted against the nomination. Well, Committee Chairman Joseph Osei-Usu indicated that Al-Hassan Suhini has subsequently withdrawn his objection to the appointment.
I seek leave to remove ample overwhelming majority decision and replace that with consensus. The House will approve the nominee. So, Mr. Speaker, with the permission, I delete an overwhelming majority decision and substitute all those with consensus.
Joseph Osei-Usu then eventually moved the motion to allow for the House to debate the approval of the report. MP for Bolgatanga East, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, raised an objection, insisting the House cannot go ahead with the debate and approval because the issue is pending at the Supreme Court.
With reference to Order 93, Sub-Order 1 of the Standing Orders of this House, Mr. Speaker, it provides that, and I read, reference shall not be made to any matter on which judicial decision is pending in such a way as may, in the opinion of Mr. Speaker, prejudice the interests of the parties to the action. Mr. Speaker, I'm drawing the House's attention to a suit that is pending before the Supreme Court. Any comments, whether adverse or commendatory, that are made in this matter may send the wrong signal to the Supreme Court with respect to this matter.
But Majority Leader Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu insisted the point of order was incompetent because there have been precedents of issues pending before the courts being dealt with in the chamber.
If Parliament went ahead to approve it, and in the wisdom of the Supreme Court, they felt that the matter was not right, and they ruled whatever Parliament did would then be considered as null and void. It's part of the application. So why this? The Speaker admits that this application is a complete abuse of the processes of this House. anytime anybody feels aggrieved and a matter is before the House, that person then will rush to the Supreme Court and tie the hands of this House from considering that for it. That's because that cannot be right.
Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Kwe, eventually ruled that there wasn't enough substance to allow for them to pull brakes on the approval process.
There must be mutual respect between all arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. There is nothing before me this morning to persuade me that the matter allegedly before the court or any matter regarding sale or any order made by the court alleged today is such that Parliament cannot do its work. A motion to be competently before this honorable House must be moved and seconded. Thereafter, a member may object to anything or make any reference to any demand when moved and seconded. Otherwise, if you anticipate wrongly, this is misconceived, it is premature, it is incompetent procedurally, the motion is accordingly rejected.
Following a debate on the report, the Speaker eventually announced the approval of the recommendation from the committee. Dr. Dominic Ayine insisted the Speaker's ruling was wrong.
Unlike a judicial body, the ruling of the Speaker is a political statement because we are a political body. The ruling of a judge may be challenged on appeal or on review, but the ruling of the Speaker cannot be challenged. So it means that the report has been adopted.
The standing orders make provisions to challenge the Speaker's ruling.
You can come by substantive motion, to challenge.
Are you ready to do that?
I'm not ready to do that. I don't want to be seen as an obstructionist, who is simply obstructing the process because, as is, out in the public domain, we are afraid of the special prosecutor. There's nothing like that. Nobody is afraid of. If I were afraid of him, I would not have taken him on the way I have done.
Attorney General Gloria Kofo says government will not hesitate to revoke the appointment if the Supreme Court rules against them.
It is true that an action has been brought in the Supreme Court against the nomination of Mr. Amidou as special prosecutor, but Parliament has not been injuncted. The mere initiation of a suit does not serve as an injunction. In the absence of that, I think Parliament is right in proceeding with the appointment.
Dr. Ayine cited the examples of the appointment of Mohamed Mumini and a number of others and said that in those scenarios, and even the 40s deal debate, Parliament pulled brakes because...
He said could. Then it leaves it to their discretion. If he says could, it means that Parliament, for whatever reason, could decide to stay its hands. But in the absence of an injunction, Parliament is free to proceed, and they are right in doing so.
So what could this mean if, for example, the Supreme Court eventually rules that the approval was wrong because it was really overage?
Appointments are always revoked, but touch wood. I am confident that Mr. Amidou's appointment will be confirmed by the Supreme Court.
From Parliament House in Accra, my name is Joseph Opoku-Gapo.
So we're back here. Now, let me just turn to you, Nenyi. In Parliament, how do you feel as parliamentarians and the whole institution in itself if, let's say, in this circumstance where there's a suit in Parliament, that also could have an influence on a decision already taken at the Supreme Court, that has an influence on a decision taken by Parliament, knowing that as a legislature, it is also a separate arm of government. How generally do you feel about it? That you want to assert your rights as a legislative body, as a separate arm of government, and knowing that within the separation of powers?
I think there are clear separation of powers. And as far as the interpretation of the Constitution is concerned, it rests within the bosom of the Supreme Court. It doesn't rest within Parliament to interpret the Constitution. So if somebody feels like there's been a breach of the Constitution and somebody takes a case to the Supreme Court, our standing orders makes provision that we would debate such issues based on the opinion of the Speaker, if we take action on these issues. So if in the opinion of Mr. Speaker, he believes that a decision that Parliament would take on a subject matter would have adverse effects on an issue that is before the Supreme Court, then Mr. Speaker may, in his wisdom, decide to stay the debate of the motion. But it's in the hands of the Speaker. And like I said earlier on, if in the event that the Supreme Court takes a decision that quashes what Parliament has done, I mean, that is the beauty of democracy. Like the Attorney General has said, the appointment will be revoked and then we'll start the process again. But until then, we shouldn't stop doing the business of Parliament because it could go either way. And I gave one of the good examples that I think, I mean, is out there in the public domain. In the wisdom of most, or in wisdom of Mr. Speaker at that time, when the petition, the elections petition was before the Supreme Court, the business of government didn't come to a standstill. Vetting of ministerial appointees were taking place. The president was swearing in members of his team. Why didn't that stop?
And why weren't questions even raised at the time?
And you see, the thing is that if the person who filed the suit thought it would be better for an injunction to be placed on the work of Parliament, then he should have asked for that as one of his reliefs. But he didn't ask for an injunction to be placed. So I mean, there's nothing to stop Parliament from going ahead to conduct our business.
Now, on the real substantive issues of the nomination and subsequently now Parliament approving Martin Amidu, why is it that overwhelmingly he seemed to have gotten the support that he has?
I believe that the canker of corruption is something that all Ghanaians are worried about. I mean, we campaigned against incompetence, economic management, and corruption. I mean, those were the three key things that we campaigned on. And it's something that is affecting development in the country. It's something that is affecting the confidence of Ghanaians, the image of Ghanaians, and it's something that I believe that collectively all Ghanaians should be committed to kick out. And from President J. Kufuor, his zero tolerance for corruption, they've been consistent leadership calls to make sure that we kick out corruption. And so it's something that draws a lot of Ghanaians around it, and it's something that I believe people are very, very keen to make sure that it becomes history as far as our body politics is concerned. If you read the stats and you look at the amount of money that that goes into corruption, I mean, the number of schools that these amounts of money could have built, the amount of water that could have been extended to communities, the amount of electricity, the amount of jobs that could have been created. I mean, something that is killing our economy. And so it's for me, I think that it's quite good news that all Ghanaians, I mean, rallied around the nomination of His Excellency the President. And it should send a clear signal to those that intend to be corrupt or those that have been corrupt in the past that, I mean, now the law is going to catch up with you.
And it looks like the President seemed to have himself played a very good card as far as that was concerned. If, let's say, it was in a game of poker, for example. But politically, the cynics or even the critics are out there saying that it may have some political consequences. True or not?
Well, I mean, in terms of the president playing a good card, do you expect anything less of His Excellency the President? He always plays the good card. Okay? I mean, for those that are saying that this could come and bite you, I mean, touch wood, inshallah, I don't think that is going to happen. And I think that on the flip side, Martin is going to prove to Ghanaians that he was the best person, and he's going to make His Excellency the President proud. He's going to make Ghanaians proud. And we all, you see, the fight against corruption is not really a one-man show. I mean, we all have a role to play. I mean, like you had said, and you also reinforced it, that we need to make sure that we resource Martin's office so that they can do the work that His Excellency the President and, of course, the act that he's now going to work with empowers him to deliver.
Well, we live to see the day that perhaps maybe an individual for a political party in government to also be under the radar of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. That would be great.
Well, I mean, I think that
as part of the fight for corruption, just to set good examples too.
Well, if there's nobody in government that is being corrupted, then
you think my scenario is far-fetched?
Well, it's okay to
assume.
To assume, yes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, let's move on. Just in neighboring Togo, the president, I think returned yesterday or 2 days ago, went to negotiate some truce between the opposition in Togo and then also for Nyasingbe, the president. And we all know the history. His father, Yadema, had been in office for a long time, and now he's continuing. We're told that the president, again, using his diplomatic skills and what he knows best how to do, brought his image to bear and his skills to bear at the end of the day. But it's always a volatile volcano, always ready to erupt, is that not it? Even with its truth.
You see, I think His Excellency the President has once again demonstrated that he's championing the cause for Africa. He's championing the cause for democracy. He's championing the cause for the rule of law. Cause just across the border, some people wake up and go to work in Togo, come and sleep in Ghana. So we cannot sleep, behave like this is something that is happening in another country. So the president's demonstration of leadership, I mean, for me, I mean, it's once again demonstrated, it's once again shown clearly. And getting there on Sunday, most importantly, he has been able to get the two parties to agree to stop the demonstrations. He's been able to get those that have been arrested released. And I believe that he's going back on Friday to progress with the discussions. The will of the people is something that should not be denied. You can't use force to deny people their choice of leaders forever. You may be able to sit on their happiness for a period, but for how long would that be? If the people feel their leaders are not delivering, then ideally it should be through the democratic process. But in the event that they feel like the democratic process is compromised, then they have no other means than to resort to some of these things. But it's very refreshing, very, very comforting that His Excellency the President is playing this role to bring the feuding factions to the table to discuss. And I'm confident that there'll be a very good resolution shortly on that matter.
But we know, we as observers, whether we're media or you were a politician or somebody who has been in business before, from afar, the onus really lies on the president, is that not it?
On which president?
The president of the Republic of Togo. To take a very bold decision and say, just for consensus sake and making sure I have the interests of the country at heart, well, I need to also cede or make some due consideration.
That is an option, okay. But again, you see, there are two sides of the coin. You understand? I mean, he also has some supporters, okay. I believe that the purpose of having this dialogue, okay, where His Excellency the President is the arbitrator, is to hear both sides of the coin and not to say that, okay, you are right, you are wrong, but to take a decision that is in the best interest of the people of Togo and by extension Africa. And I think that is what is going to happen. So if it takes that the current president of Togo needs to step aside, that could be an option. It could be, and you know that in certain countries they've been like a government, a coalition government that runs the state on an interim basis until proper elections are drawn. So there are a number of options that could be on the table. But the most important thing is that there must be a resolution to this subject matter.
Well, it looks like Togo, just like maybe a few of the African countries that had erupted into war, had always been seeing that kind of fire burning, but somehow we've been able to just keep it under wraps. Maybe perhaps the experiences have been good. But what can the president do that will be a way of leaving a certain legacy on this level of discussions?
Which president?
Our president.
Yeah.
Do leave a certain level of legacy on the discussions and the disagreement that the opposition may have had or is having with the government?
I think for me the first thing would be to continue to show both sides that he's someone that can be trusted. Okay, I mean, if both sides believe that the judgment of His Excellency the President cannot be questioned, and the people of Togo believe that indeed His Excellency the President continues to be impartial in his leading these discussions, then that would be a significant amount of the work that needs to be done being addressed. I think that both sides also need to understand that they need to take the best decision for Togo. It's nobody can fix Togo beyond the will of the Togolese people, and I think that is what His Excellency the President has been saying. That yes, I may come in, I will do what I have to do, but it is the will of the people of Togo that must be respected. Okay, it is the decisions that are in the best interest of Togo that must be respected, and I think that will be the legacy that His Excellency the President will leave. I mean, so far the fact that he's been able to get a sort of an agreement that those that have been arrested for the demonstrations. Those that have been arrested for the demonstrations should be released. The fact that he's been able to get a ceasefire or a hold on the demonstrations that were being organized, it means that both sides have conceded to certain things. And the fact that they've agreed to continue these discussions on Friday, I think the president is leaving a great legacy.
Yeah, the president seems to be. Oh, he's always known to be the man that he is, but now in office, showing that he's miles apart his contemporary, so to speak. Well,
would you want to repeat that?
Yeah, I have to repeat that. Especially, he's been getting a number of accolades and commendations over the last couple of months.
I think we're expecting something different, Anna.
Oh, onto them, but in the most as anything. But I would say you move on. So we have this: 500 Ghanaians face deportation from Dubai. But you go to page 11 of the Ghanaian Times, just like we also had a report. It says about 500 Ghanaians are stranded in the United Arab Emirates and the rest of the Emirati after they've been left to their fates by their recruitment agencies. And the victims, mainly young people, apparently they pay between 8,000 and 15,000 to the recruitment agencies and were issued with 90-day tourist visas, which allow them maximum of, apparently also, 90-day stay in the oil-rich countries. It's a conundrum that have faced us for years.
Yes, I mean, you would always have a situation where people, or some people, would want to migrate for greener pastures. And the perception out there is that there are job opportunities waiting for you when you get to Dubai or those countries. And it may not be entirely true. Like the report is saying, these recruitment agencies come with all sorts of promises. Oh, we've secured jobs for you. This is what you're going to be doing. This is what you're going to be earning. This is the package for you. So very enticing packages. They do not get the proper visas for these people. Like the report is saying, they tend to go on a tourist visa, which then expires after 9 months. Sometimes when you get there, the jobs are even non-existent. You don't have those jobs there, but you are there already. So you have to start to hustle. You'll be doing all sorts of jobs. You'll be giving be subjected to all sorts of treatments that you normally would not be expecting to go through even in your own country. And sometimes there's this stigma that once you are out there, you can't really come back, and so you have to sort of fight it out there. It's good that Ghana's mission has been interacting with these individuals and has been trying to work out some kind of arrangement to get them back to Ghana. But it's also instructive to note that there's currently an embargo, a ban on these recruitment agencies recruiting labor from Ghana to go to these countries to go and work, and most of these things are being done illegally. So with the various ministries, the Ministry of Employment, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Interior, having these bilateral discussions with our counterparts on the other side, we should be able to find a situation where if there are job opportunities there, I mean, there's a proper process where the Ghanaians that fit those opportunities that are available go through the right process, and then they are able to deliver their services for a fee, and then they get properly remunerated, and they deliver these services under better conditions within the relevant laws, and the Ghanaians are also not going to be breaching the laws of the countries that they are going to be working at. So I think the big thing is to drive more education to Ghanaians that listen. It's not every story that comes out that there's a job opportunity out there that you should go and sell your family property and jump onto the plane or go through different countries to get there, hoping that you're going to reach the promised land. I mean, there are processes and procedures for some of these things, and there are ways that you can check if these opportunities that are there are really genuine, and then we should be able to streamline these things. And I'm looking forward to these discussions that are happening with other countries, being properly formalized and properly structured, and them coming out with the right ways of delivering a need if there is one to be addressed.
And critically, the Minister of Information has been speaking on the subject, trying to also make government's position known, because already, as enumerated by Nenyi, we already have a ban in place, but even though it is in place, we have our citizens who are stranded in these Emiratis or the Gulf countries. And so Mustafa Hamid has been talking about efforts by government to make sure that the right things are done.
The government in July 2017 placed a ban on the activities of employment agencies recruiting Ghanaians for domestic work in Gulf countries. The ban follows numerous reported cases of abuse of some Ghanaians in those countries. However, the ban appears to be non-existent, as government is reporting 500 Ghanaian youth are currently stranded in Dubai alone.
The Consulate General in Dubai has been in regular contact with the stranded Ghanaians and is working on getting them the necessary support to return home. We wish to take the opportunity to remind Ghanaians that the ban on exportation of labor from Ghana to the Gulf is still in place. The Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, in collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, are working to ensure that bilateral agreements are reached between Ghana and the states in the Gulf before the ban is lifted.
On the Presidential Task Force meeting on the ECOWAS single currency, he noted the meeting will facilitate a roadmap to accelerate the creation of the single currency by 2020.
Well, so that's how the story goes. But Nenyi, what can we do in a way by also encouraging young people to perhaps do some further research before they fall, whether they are victims or not, or to these sumptuous appeals that are made in the communication to get them to go to the Gulf countries?
I mean, for me, the first thing is if there's really a job opportunity out there, then you should be able to go there on a work visa. The fact that the recruitment agency is taking you on a tourist visa should let you know that there are challenges. Also, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a desk that you can go and check these opportunities, where these opportunities are genuine. And most of these Gulf countries also have embassies or missions here in Ghana that you could go and check if the opportunities that you are being given are genuine. I think these recruitment agencies also should stop being this selfish and stop moving people outside the country just because they want to make some money. You move them into the country, you move them out of the country, and you leave them to their fate once they get there. And all the promises that you make to them, you don't deliver, and these people are out there by their own, having to do all sorts of menial jobs, putting their lives at risk. And for me, the third thing, which is quite important, is the talks that are taking place with these countries, between Ghana and the Gulf states, to sort of streamline an arrangement. Because if there's a genuine need for services to be delivered, be it teachers, be it nurses, be it household staff, and we have the resource here in Ghana, we could export those resources in a structured way, okay, and address the need that they have. And I guess that is the objective of these discussions that are taking place.
Perhaps also there could be some problems with some socio-cultural, maybe background issues that they are likely to also to go and face when they go to those countries, and that could be at variance to whether the citizens need these migrants in their countries in the first place, and how they perceive these migrants who are coming from Africa.
Yeah, so that's what I said. So if there's a proper process, there's a structure in place, then I mean all these issues, whether the cultural sensitivities,
then they become irrelevant.
Not that it becomes irrelevant. It becomes rather relevant because then it doesn't come as a surprise that you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You know exactly what you're not supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be doing A, B, C when you get there, and so you make an informed decision whether you want to still go ahead.
Well, we'll see how that goes. But thank you, and thanks for passing through the studio this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes, always a pleasure.
All right. So, Nenyi George Andah is a member of Parliament for Ewutu Senya West, but also a Deputy Minister for Communications. And we've been grateful to have him.